Welcome to the Non-Sequitur Show. Continual watching beyond this point may result in terminal face palming and a complete loss of wokeness. You have been warned.
All right, welcome. It has been a while since I've streamed any kind of non-sequitur show, so my apologies. Usually I stream when I find something of interest to me, and lately there's been stuff that was very much of interest to me. And so to give you a brief overview of what we're going to be talking about today, I watched this video not too long ago. It was a Jubilee video, and it had a panel of basically trans conservatives versus trans liberals, and they were trying to find some middle ground. And during that discussion, I took some notes. This is where that way. And one of the panelists on that particular discussion was Jessica Gill, and she's a First and Second Amendment, I'd say rights activist, or at least pundit of some kind. Would that be a fair assessment?
I actually don't like the term activist.
I know you don't.
Because it means something to me that I don't want to be a part of. But I am an activist for women and women's sports and women's safety. So I guess it would be a proper label.
Okay. And you were on this panel, and so I reached out to you, and you were kind enough to say, absolutely, come on and talk about your experience and things in the nature of relating to transgender in sports and some of the things that have been going on with I think the visceral reactions that people have with many of the, like you said, trans activists. And I do agree with you. I think the term trans activist has been bantered around, and it differs from people to people, because the way you have used it seems to be different. And like I would put you as a trans activist, but you wouldn't, because you are against the certain trans activists, right? But anyways, introduce yourself to my audience here, because I got to tell you, you guys are going to love this particular stream. This is going to be fun. I guarantee it. This is going to be a good stream.
Oh, thank you. Yeah. Like I said, I was born a male, and I do not disguise that. Like, everybody can see it when they look at me, and I've caught a lot of heat for saying that famous line on that debate was that I know I don't pass, and that broke the heart of so many people that either follow me or appreciate what I'm doing for women's sports, stuff like that. So I've been transitioned for over 8 years now. I've been on hormones. I've had several surgeries. Actually scheduled for another surgery here at the end of November. I started out, I'm not one of those lefty converted people. So I wasn't like, oh, hey, I was, totally liberal. I've always been on this side, but I was a little more lenient towards the left until, say, like 6 years ago, when all this gender fluidity started coming out, and it started to drive me nuts. And I just said, I'm not taking this anymore. I'm going to put my face out there. I'm going to start being more vocal about how I feel about the situation of the landscape of the trans community as a whole. And then, to be honest with you, I've never really aligned with the LGB. And I know there's a big push on the LGB cut out the T, and mm-hmm. I've supported that 100%. Like, as a transgender person, I don't need the support of the lesbians and gays, because I am my own being, and I will make my own path. So I've never needed to be in the umbrella of the LGBT, LGBTQIA. Now there's a 2S for Two Spirit
Two
on there.
Spirit.
Like,
Plus.
yeah, it's not worth it. I don't need those labels. So yeah, I couldn't call it.
I felt what you are described, by the way. When you said that line on the Jubilee panel, I literally felt the same thing that your followers probably felt. I was like, wow, there's some passion. That was something that people could relate to you. And even though I think you're absolutely passing, to somebody like myself who's not trans, you come across as very sincere and very legit and very emotional and in a good way. And I think that's what people stood up and said, wait a minute here. Maybe people like Jessica, people we maybe should listen to a little bit more, because I thought you and Blaire were shouted down and spoken over and not listened to at all. Like you were just there to provide some kind of fodder for the other side. And for myself, who is a middle ground person, I'm very much in the middle ground. But I'm known as the a-holy pope of agnosticism. I can't get more middle. I'm a centrist. I didn't think you were given that ability to really put your side out there. So can you kind of tell us, how kind of started to get involved in the Jubilee? I guess was a panel board, discussion board meeting. What do they bill it to you as?
They reached out to me because of my social media platforms, Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, stuff like that. They have a section on their website. You can go in and apply to be on their show. They came to me because they know they were referred to me. They didn't reveal their source, but it was nice to me because that means I'm making a difference. I got my name out there. I got my face out there. They found me. So plain and simple, I did not do anything. I mean, I did have to do a few interviews prior to the actual podcast, so we did 2 or 3 of those, and that was it. Like, I was like, yeah, I was given no details. There is a big debate right now between Blaire and Blossom that Blaire set it all up. Blossom set it all up. Blossom requested it. Blaire requested it. I don't know the facts on that. I don't care really, but I went in completely blind, and I didn't even know that it was Blaire and Blossom on the podcast.
Oh, you didn't know until you're there?
That morning.
Wow, how surprise. Yeah.
Yeah, because I drove in from Las Vegas, and it was just me and Andrew were the first people there because he had flown in from, I believe, Georgia, I think it was. And, so yeah, we were just waiting in our dressing rooms, and then I heard Blossom walk by, and I heard Blaire's voice, and then I saw Sarah, and me and Sarah were like, oh my gosh, we hugged. And because I know Sarah from previous, because we're both on the same side of the trans community. And, it was great. And I interacted a little bit with Andrew, but it was all walking in cold, literally.
So you had never spoken to Blaire or been involved with her channel or anything before, or?
Oh yeah, I followed Blaire for years, and we've had some interactions via DMs or private messages. Hey, thanks for doing this, or hey, I appreciate you on that. But I don't think we have a great friendship. I wouldn't say, not same as Sarah. Just interacting online,
amicable with each other.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, totally.
Yeah. So, but what did they tell you the title was going to be? Like, did they tell you this was going to be conservative trans versus like liberal trans? Because just before I went on air, I had tweeted something out that I put to you that for some reason, if you again, this is maybe just my own experience, but somebody did kind of imply this, that if you support liberal trans, you're an ally to the LGBTQ plus, and if you support conservative trans, you're transphobic. And if you support both, then that's kind of a contradiction, I guess. But I really was thinking that when I was watching this video that it was going to be a very intelligent conversation between two sides that have very different political ideologies, but are still dealing with trans rights and trans issues. And I don't think that's what happened.
No, not at all. And to answer the first question, yeah, it comes across as the email say, hey, would you like to be a part of this Jubilee trans liberals versus trans conservatives debate? And, obviously I clicked yes, I will do that. And yeah, the labeling and, labels are huge for me because I've actually caused even a little distress amongst my trans conservative friends with the don't label me as transsexual, transgender, just I'm Jessica. Like I don't use pronouns. I don't care to be associated with one or the other. My name is Jessica Gill. That's legally that way. It's on my driver's license, everything. So that's just who I am. Maybe I'm branding myself as my own,
I think that's great.
personality.
What's wrong with that? Yeah, I mean, like I said, I think everybody has to kind of brand themselves in their own way and do what you do. I've always told people, if you want to succeed in YouTube or anything like that, find your own path. Do what makes you happy, because if you do stuff what other people make happy, or you think what's going to make them happy, it's never going to work. You have to do what you enjoy, and those people that like that kind of content will watch.
Exactly. And to touch on the thing that you said a little bit, like why are we always labeled as transphobes or recently, today I've been called a bigot like 5 times on Twitter. So
so you wake up, you're like, hey, how many bigot people? I mean, how many times have I been called bigot today?
Yeah, I've been called the gamut, and so, and back to the debate, it wasn't a civil conversation. The very first prompt, it was as if, I don't know if I'm supposed to say this. I don't want to get in trouble with Jubilee, because
I don't think they're never going to watch this. I'm on Rumble now. I don't put it on YouTube later,
somebody might screenshot it and clip a section of it. But
I don't want to get you in trouble.
Yeah, what I was going to say is that, like, there wasn't, or they did the 4 first prompts. I think there was 4 and then 4 again, and only 5 or 6 made it on there. But the first 4 prompts, they knew what they were doing, because the first 4 prompts, it was all us, just the conservatives step forward, the conservatives step forward. And then we took lunch break, and then we filmed the second half, and it was all the liberal stuff, and that was when we all stayed back. But they broke it up, and that's editing. That's fine.
That's fine. That's production. I don't have an issue with that per se.
Yeah, switch it around to keep it interesting. And but from the very first one, the 4 of us got to sit down and say our piece. And then as soon as the liberals came in, it was like, attack Blaire. You guys aren't doing anything. You suck. This is my problem. And da, da, da. They didn't want to have like a conversation. They just wanted to.
It was personal attacks. It was character assassination. They didn't seem to have any interest in discussing any of the topics that I think people really had wanted to be discussed. Nothing. And look, and I'll be honest, I've never even heard of Blossom or Alexander prior to this, and I don't think I ever do want to again. I did watch some things that Blossom had said on various interviews, and I got to tell you, as somebody who reviews debates and somebody who reviews logical arguments and things of that nature, her historical revisionism is palatable. It is unbelievable that she had the audacity to try to gaslight people into making people believe something that just wasn't there in the actual discussion. It was bizarre how she's seemingly changing the entire narrative and framing it against Blaire. And then I watched Blaire's review of it, and she seems to be exactly how I watched it. So I don't know really. I wasn't there. But do you have anything to add to that? Because for us that were just watching, we weren't there, but it does seem that Blaire is spot on from what I've seen, and Blossom is not.
Yeah, and I did want to get this out to a lot of people who had commented on my YouTube channel saying that they wish they'd heard more from me, and but the big thing was, like, to what you just said about Blaire is, she said everything. Me and Blaire align almost 100% down the road together. And she said everything that I would want to say. And at the end, after she was done, I was like, I can't add to that without just sounding like an echo.
But still, you guys ideologically align, which I think is great. But here's the thing. Blaire has a massive platform. Let's be realistic. She's branded herself. Yeah. She knows what she's doing. She's articulate. She's intelligent. She's educated. She knows her niche. She knows what she's doing. And so people have listened to her for a very long time. And I got to tell you, it's nice when fresh people come around, new faces, new names, new ideologies, new positions, even if they're the same things that Blaire, says, just somebody else having those same positions and talking about them, to me, is interesting. And I think that's probably why, myself included, and other people have said that they would have liked to have heard more from you. Because I said the exact same thing. too.
Yeah, I get a lot of that. 30,000 plus comments on that video alone, on the Jubilee site. Just, yeah. And, they're not all about me, but the ones that were addressed towards me or about me that I could read, I couldn't read all 30,000 of them. But yeah, they were, wish we'd heard more from the blonde chick, or that blonde girl reminds me of my aunt. I get that a lot because I have the generational look, and I'm not ashamed of it. I love it.
No, own it. Look, I'm Gen X, man. I'm proud of it. I am so happy to be Gen X because I look at the Gen Zs and I'm like, oh my God, I just posted something like a couple coworkers of mine, they never heard of Hotel California by the Eagles. They never watched a single Star Wars movie. They've never seen a single Star Trek episode. I'm like, am I living in a different reality? So our generation is probably, I mean, I'm older than you, but I mean, our generation is still a lot different than the younger people that are going through these things and talking about these issues. Because I think that if you would have had a conversation with somebody probably in their, just coming out of their teens that is transitioning or things of that nature, it would be a very interesting discussion. But I think you would have very different viewpoints, only because I think a lot of them are being told what to think, and you're just telling your beliefs, your positions. And I think there's a big difference there.
Yeah, I'm Gen X with you. I'm, like I said, I'm almost 49, and so yeah, those are those. I hate calling them kids, but that generation, that's the one that I'm trying to reach to, and it's become increasingly difficult. And with the way my pages have blown up because of this podcast, the Jubilee, and I'm appreciative of that, but it's also it's brought a lot of hate. I'm getting a lot of hate messages, stuff like that. But I welcome that, because that tells me I'm reaching people. That's what I want.
What is it to hate though? Okay, so another thing I posted was that, look, nobody's never going to agree 100% with anybody, and you're going to have detractors. You're going to have shitty people. You're going to have people that just are just going to be nasty. It's just the way of the internet, unfortunately. But I mean, I didn't hear anything that you said that any reasonable person would take offense to or be outraged about. They could disagree with you, certainly, but to like have any kind of visceral reaction, that just blows my mind. It's mind-boggling. I can't process something like that, because what did you possibly say where anybody would elicit some kind of negative response like that?
Yeah, on the debate, I didn't say much that would bring about such hatred. But in some of my other, Instagram clips and stuff, I'll make banter on, the younger generation of trans crying about being misgendered, things like that, and and excluding trans people from competing in women's sports has got me the most hate. And it's logic, it's reason, morality, humanity, call it what you want. Like, that's where I stand. And the way that these people come after me but see, and here's the thing, that you can always tell it's a liberal coming after you, because they will just attack your character,
right?
As opposed to saying, well, hey, wouldn't you think that it would be fair for this to happen instead of that? No, they just come at me. You're a Karen. You're a bigot, transphobe. You look like you were born in 1946. What's with the stupid hair? Your makeup doesn't match. Yeah,
I loathe that stuff. I loathe that stuff. I loathe that with a passion, because it's not attacking the argument. It's attacking the person.
They always do that. Yeah, they can never come up with a valid argument against what I just said. They just assume attack my person. And, it was that way with Blossom on Blaire,
100%.
Just going after, like, what have you done? That was the big line that.
Right, remember that? What have you done for the trans community, Blaire White? Really?
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, that was like the stupidest statement. Wow. Well, she had a lot of stupid statements on that episode, but that was a
good one.
Yeah, to ask if Blaire.
So let me ask you though, because about the whole like trans in sports. I agree with you, and unfortunately, seems to be the conservatives that do talk about that more, and the liberals, I agree with you, tend to be more aggressive against the person rather than the arguments, which is a shame, because again, I'm a moderate, I'm not conservative, I'm not liberal, I just talk about the issues. But there's a lot of right-wing conservatives that are just radically, just so far to the right that nobody wants to deal with them, even though they might agree on certain things that I might agree with them. I want nothing to do with, which is a shame, because again, you're labeled more to the conservative by your own, admission, but there are far radical conservatives out there that I doubt you really probably want to be much associated with, correct?
Yeah, including the radical feminists.
Well, that'd be the far left, wouldn't it?
Yeah. Well, yeah, I would say most of the feminist conservatives, if there are any, that's a good point that you bring up there. I never thought about that.
Unless you have the horseshoe theory where you get so far right and for so far left, you just kind of like return where you started.
You're back where you started.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't. Yeah, the sports thing, it just blows my mind. I can't.
Do you think you're being gaslit when people tell you that, somebody who is born biologically male, obviously, I mean, biologically, I do like biology. There's going to be physiological differences. It's just nature. And so when you have somebody like I watched this bodybuilder today, there was a tweet or a Twitter on it, and this person was basically saying, well, I'm female in every aspect. I'm biologically female, blah blah blah, and yet they're trans or biologically male, and of course they're dominating in every competition they go into. And the biological women that have dedicated their lives to these sports feel like they're being marginalized. They feel like they're not being listened to, and there is unfair competition. And I know that you are, very good friends with a lot of the trans athletes. What do you have to say to the younger generation? They're saying, oh no, you just have to say your particular gender or whatever, and you can compete in that sports class.
Yeah, well, a lot of the the younger generation that wants to argue with me about it, they're always trying to bring up numbers, and I've read every research paper on studies on how hormone replacement therapy, HRT, we'll call it, has the effect of negating male testosterone advantages gained through male puberty. And I'm here to tell you that there's no physical data that proves that point. And I've done my own personal tests within my neighborhood, my community. I race mountain bikes, and I'm an avid runner. I still try and stay healthy, although my career is long since ended back years ago, and I retired from motocross. But being a professional athlete at one time, I remembered that, training, and my point that I'm always trying to get across to them is that, look, I've been off the motorcycle for over, I'd say 10 years right now. And because of my repeated specific muscle training of one sport, Leah Thomas was swimming for all through, junior high, high school. That's, 8 to 10 years of the same action. So your muscles develop muscle memory. You have specific speed in muscle training. Those muscles adapt to doing that specific task. And there's a little bit of the mental side of it. So I just know what I'm doing when I'm on the bike. So my point was that to this day, I could get off the couch, and I do watch this. The Pro Motocross Association does not have a women's division anymore. There are a few fast females out there who have tried to qualify for professional motorsports today. And I look at their times on the tracks that I used to ride. As a 48-year-old retired former male who has zero testosterone in my system, I have been on HRT for 8 years, and I get my testosterone checked every 6 months. I could still get on the bike and beat that top-ranked female, and I haven't ridden in 10 years. But because of muscle memory, train specific muscle speed,
that's a big discrepancy between training as biologically one way and then biologically another. Of course, your fast muscle twitch, your bone density and things of that nature. There's going to be advantageous to somebody who, like yourself, was born male, but you develop the skill, like you said. It's training. It is repetitive things where your muscles just know what to do, your mind knows what to do, and that's what an expert would be. So, I mean, I would put you in the expert category as somebody who does motocross or things of that nature. So, when you have somebody, though, in the younger generation that hasn't, developed those kinds of muscle memories and skill sets, they also are not going to realize that having the biological advantages of being born a specific way has to be taken into account. There's just nothing medically that can change those biological differences, and that's what I and other people have said. we find this to be unfair competition. We want fair competition. We want, I mean, anybody who says like, transgenders should be excluded from sports, nobody wants to talk to those people. Those are the radical. But there has to be a way to make it fair for everybody. That's the middle ground. And that's what I was hoping the discussion would have been on the Jubilee panel, something along those lines. What is the middle ground here? Here you have somebody like yourself who's advocating for this and this, who agrees there's some unfair competition here. Leah Thomas, Riley Gaines. There's been a numerous amount of issues in sports where people have said, look, this is not fair. This is completely not fair. And that's the voices I think people wanted to hear. That's what I wanted to have heard. But that's not what happened because, fortunately, there was 2 people on that panel that I have told you I personally believe made it all about them. They didn't make it about the issue. They didn't make it about trans rights. They didn't make it about sports. They made it specifically about them and their disdain for basically Blaire and maybe even you a little bit.
Yeah. Blossom came after me afterwards, saying that I was a waste of space on the podcast.
Are you serious?
Yeah. I had people quote tweeting and messaging me that she really said that. Yeah. I was just taking up space that could have been used by a more valuable, formidable foe. And I'm like,
the failure of her to grasp the irony of that is mind blowing.
Well, exactly. And again, they turned it into a competition. It was supposed to be let's find a middle ground, and they called it a debate and then said they won. And then everybody's like,
they did. No, you're not even kidding. She went on, I don't know the name of the show, but Blossom and Alexander both went on a podcast and said they won the debate. First of all, I didn't see that as a debate. It was supposed to be a discussion. Second of all, nobody in their right mind could say that they came out looking well, even more or less won anything. If anything, I thought your side did exceptionally well because you were talking about the issues. Agree with you or don't agree with you, it doesn't matter. It's how you presented the issues, how Blaire presented the issues, and the side of, hey, let's talk about what we were here to talk about, not make it some kind of personal grudge match. Because sure, dumpster fires are great. Don't get me wrong. I know you've watched my NonSequitur show a few times. We've had dumpster fires. Not gonna front. They could be great. But you know what? That was a really sensitive issue, and that should have been taken seriously with respect and not let them make it about them. I think that was just so much of a wasted opportunity. And for her to say that you of all people were wasted space, no.
Yeah, it made me mad. I've tried to interact with Blossom on a few other social media accounts, and she won't talk to me. She won't take my messages. I've called her out on Instagram saying, hey, I would like to
interact with her. I don't follow her. She has no idea who I am. She'll never know who I am, and I don't care. She's the antithesis of the person that I want to have a conversation with, because I have shows on narcissism. I have shows on things like grandiose narcissism, abusive narcissism, gaslighting. And to me, everything that I talk about on my shows, she seems to typify. Grandiose narcissism, just making it about persecution, making it about her own sense of entitlement. And it was brilliant when Blaire had the pushback of, wait a minute here, did you have a full scholarship from with the Kardashians? Didn't you get invited to the White House? Have you been on Ellen? And Blaire's like, I can't even get on CNN or Fox.
Yeah, I know. And poor Blaire. I mean, she has a huge platform, and for Blossom to call her out like that, and just Blossom's had everything handed to her,
right.
And it's just frustrating to see people advocating, in my opinion, for the wrong reasons. Now they're going to say that I'm, advocating for the wrong reasons, but I've never heard anybody to this day, and I was thinking about it yesterday. I go back, how many people have you heard say, I was conservative and now I'm a liberal? It's always the other way around. I mean, people as big as Candace Owens, Amala Ekanobi, like they were all huge left-wing advocates, and now they're on the right, and it just.
I grew up conservative, but I was a Ronald Reagan type conservative. My daughter was named after Ronald Reagan. Okay, middle name, and so I mean, my dad was conservative, my mom was liberal, but didn't much talk about politics that much. But I was basically one of those people that was very fiscally conservative, but socially minded, a liberal in that regard. But nowadays, the term conservative seems to me to be something completely shifted. Liberal seems to be completely shifted. But you're right. I do see a lot of people that once probably were more liberal move more to the conservative side. And I think that I was Colin Wright, who I'm pretty sure you probably know. Swipe Right. You familiar with him?
Yeah, I've heard of it. I've not seen
Yeah,
it.
he's a PhD in biology, and he has a graphic where he basically says he's here, liberal and conservative, and then the Liberal Party just went so far off to the left that he didn't move, but all of a sudden he's not considered to be conservative. And I think that's kind of what happened to me as well. And so even though I don't tend to be generally conservative for the most part, the far radical left have moved so far away that people like Candace Owens is now considered to be conservative. And it's funny you mentioned her because somebody tried to use her as a weapon against me. It's like, well, saying that you're not racist is saying you listen to Candace Owens. I'm like, but what's wrong? I don't have to agree with Candace Owens on everything, but to say that she's somehow racist or things of that nature, I don't get those types of arguments. I think these are just words being thrown out there: racist, bigots, homophobe, transphobe, when somebody doesn't have any actual argument about what the person's saying.
Exactly. Yeah, I love Candace. I think and I have been put on my feet to the fire, being that I support Candace. They're like, you would actually support someone who wants to lock you up and throw you in jail. And I've done videos about that where I wear my handcuff earrings and say, I'm a 2A supporter. The day comes when somebody tries to lock me up for being who I am. Good luck.
Yeah, protect. No, absolutely. I can see weapons permit up in Washington. I'm a 2A advocate as well, so I firmly believe in that. But okay, so I don't know Candace's positions very well. I've only listened to bits and pieces and clips. I do know though there are people out there. I don't know if you're familiar with people like Ken Hovind, Pastor Adams. Okay, so there's these radical evangelicals, and Ken Hovind is one of them. He's been on my show many times, and not in a good way. But I had a debate with him and a person named Aaron Raw on the NonSequitur show years ago. It had like 700,000 views. And this person, he advocates for if you're gay, to have I'm not even joking here, for the government to execute the person, because they don't want to do it. They're like, oh, we're not going to kill the gay people, but you know what? We're going to support the government doing it. I'm like, and you think this is moral? You think this is something your God wants, and you're going to push us on secular society? And that's the stuff that I do stand absolutely against. But do you think that something like Candace wants, trans, gay, and something like that to be illegal? Because I haven't heard that before. She does.
Yeah, I would say her, Michael Knowles, and
maybe.
Yeah, that dude and her, they have some pretty extreme views against my people. Hate saying my people, but the trans party. They don't. Their views are a little extreme for me, but on real life issues, it's hard to deny that they're not wrong. You know,
this is again, you can't agree 100% with everybody. You have to pick and choose what you agree with people, and the rest what they don't agree with, you denounce them on. You're like, look, I don't agree with them on this issue. I agree with them on this issue. But I like I said, I haven't listened to Candace Owens enough on this particular topic to know if she advocates that it should be somehow illegal, which makes no sense to me. That would just be horrifying. And you're right. That's when you definitely need to pick up your Second Amendment and go from there, because I sure the hell would. This is so unconstitutional and so against what America's about. But I've had people on my show, unfortunately, that have advocated for that. And again,
really?
wasn't propping them up. I was arguing against them, obviously.
No.
But I have a fair platform. I do have people on that I don't agree with at all, and I get eviscerated for that. Why'd you have this person on? It's to show that I don't agree with this person.
Yeah, and to your point about having people on your show that you agree or disagree, there have been so many people clamoring to have me, Sarah, and Blaire all get together and do a single podcast together because they want to hear us all.
That'd be great. What's stopping you besides Blaire? She's probably busy as hell.
Blaire's busy. Yeah, she was just she did Timcast and Sarah does her own podcast.
Timcast. Yeah, I saw her in Timcast.
I would love to do any videos with those girls at any time. I would love to, but I don't want to live in an echo chamber. Mm-hmm. And that's exactly all it would be, is just we're all going to back each other up. Now, if the three of us could go back on a panel and debate,
I would love that. That's what I want to see. I want to see you and the other side. I don't want to see an echo chamber. I don't want to see a bunch of people that agree with each other. And by the way, people are going to be like, I guarantee you, they'll be like, oh, Steve, you just had an echo chamber today. Look, we're going to open the lines up, and people want to call. We've been asking for questions for days now, and nobody's really asked anything. So I don't have echo chambers. I love when people ask serious questions. I
Yeah.
honestly do.
Contest me. I would love it. Anybody, talk to me. Tell me why you think a biological male should be, against girls. And, they won't, because, and that's the problem, is people want to live in that echo chamber. And so the people that I'm trying to reach, the liberals, the Gen Zs, even the young millennials, like, they block me immediately. They don't even want to listen to what I have
I've
to
seen
say.
that. I know they do that. They do that to me. They've done it to other people. It blows my mind when they just like, you know what? You give them a solid argument, and the next thing you know, blocked.
Yeah, I make a point that I never block somebody. I mean, unless they're just
I block
being,
shitty people. I will tell you right now. If
yeah.
somebody comes sideways at me and they're just shitty and they're sea lying and they're just a horrible, I'm going to block them. But if they disagree with me, go for it. I love that. Bring it.
I try not ever to block people, just because I want them to hear what I have to say. And for them to block me, it's super frustrating. I can't get through that barrier of the initial contact of, you're a bigot, you're a transphobe. I'm like, well, listen to what I have to say, or tell me how you think it's fair, or, tell me why you think that. If there is a lot of nuance, and then we can talk about this and go to the chats if you want to take some phone calls.
Yeah, I put the phone number out. It's a phone number you can call, and then you put the PIN number in,
cool.
and it dials right into the meet here. And then people can ask questions. I have a lot of my moderators out there. It's mostly my audience right now. So hi guys out there. I think that almost everyone in my audience and my moderators probably agree with me. I know that April maybe has a little bit different views than me, but we get along fantastic, and we have great conversations on this particular topic. And she knows that people that disagree with me, if you talk to me like a civilized adult, we're going to have amazing dialogue. But if you come at me sideways and it's pejoratives, spewing things like bigot, homophobe, or anything like that, yeah, it's you have to pick your battles. And this is what I'm going to have to tell you, is that if you want to get more on YouTube, you have only a certain amount of time. And you cannot waste your time on people that have no interest on listening to what you have to say. Because yes, you may change a few of their minds somewhere down the line, but is it worth the effort? Isn't it better to put your effort and your intelligence and your education and your experience to people that you might have a much better chance of getting through to? Or do you want to try to get those extreme people that you probably will never reach, but just to get one of them?
Yeah, you're right. And I am super guilty. I go down that. I'll chase that person. If they want to debate me, I will chase them to the end of the earth, trying to convince them, of something different. And it ends up being futile. It's a, complete waste of my time. And I need to be more
time management.
Yeah, efficient with my time on that issue. But yeah, again, like the bathroom debate, that was the big one. That's the one that got me the notoriety with the non-passing. So it is a nuanced deal, but I want those liberals, the Gen Z, I want them to tell me honestly that if they don't get access to the women's room because they feel a certain way, like Alexander.
We'll get to Alexander.
Yeah, does that mean that's the end of their world? Like, no, it doesn't.
But they're being told it is. They're told how to feel. They're told to make, oh my God, my life is ending because of this. They're told to emphasize the emotional state rather than the rational state. And I was, by the way, I've been doing this a lot of years too. So I was around during the whole initial bathroom debates, trans and sports debates for years. This is not something new. And so my name was involved in some of the stuff. But it's like, we don't all know like Buck Angel. Does anybody want Buck Angel to use the ladies' room? Come on, seriously, right?
Yeah, and Blaire White. Sense. Blaire White should 100% be in the women's room, and I've been attacked for that. Yeah, like the feminists come at me for saying that there are trans women out there who deserve to be in the women's room. I'm not one of them.
You absolutely are. No, this is my position. I believe there are people out there that are good agents and bad agents. People that honestly believe, and those are the good people, right? But you also have bad actors in any group. And unfortunately, the bad actors, the Jessica Yanives, Jeremy Marsh, Dylan McVaney, I'm not a fan of any of them. And I think they're all bad actors. And they're making the good actors like yourself, they're giving your life misery because of it. Because I got to tell you, as being Gen X, as you know, our moms and our sisters would go into the men's bathroom if they had to go if the line was too long. Nobody cared. Remember those days? Nobody cared. And nobody should care.
I've
But
seen women push, back in my
yes,
day. I've
it's the
seen
bad
women push
actors that
men
make
to
it
get
difficult.
the
Right, right,
reference.
exactly. You gotta go,
They
you
would
gotta
do that.
go. But it was the bad actors that made it difficult for everybody. That's my view, and yet I'm vilified because I happen to speak out against the bad actors, like Blossom and Alexander. To me, were bad actors, and we'll get more into that. But do you agree on that?
Yeah, 100%. And the generation gap, and I know, and like I said, I appreciate everybody who's reached out to me and said, "Girl, you belong in the bathroom with women." And
Absolutely.
I did a short clip the other day that said, "Hey, um, now because, and not just recently, but for years, I've been using the men's room." And I was mentioning how, like, I was at a casino the other day, and the bathrooms are pretty far apart. I was walking into the men's room, and this girl was coming this way, and she was like following me into the men's room because she thought I would be entering the women's room. Just saying that girls were getting used to that. People, society was used to seeing someone like me, even though I don't pass. Like,
Stop.
they know
By the way,
I'm in there.
I think other people judge that, right? And
They
I will
do.
tell you, yeah, and I will tell you, you pass. But I mean, because again, these are things that other people will tell about a person, right? Because we all have our internal things. But I could say that, look, I believe that I'm, 100 pounds. I'm not 100 pounds. I guarantee it, right? But
Right.
if I ask somebody, how much do you think I weigh? They're not going to tell me 100 pounds. They're going to tell me I'm closer to like 200.
Okay.
And so, yes, it's other people that will tell you, if you're passing or not, or things of that nature. And I got to tell you, you're absolutely passing. And even if you weren't, who cares? Your intent is what matters. Your
Yeah,
intent.
but and then, so to finish that story, is like, I did that video, and it got a lot of reviews and a lot of response from women. Some women disagreeing, saying that I was lying, I was full of crap. And I also said, it goes the other way. I've walked in, I can't tell you how many times I've walked into men's room, and the guys go, they think they're in the women's room. They're like, Shh, did I walk into the wrong place? No.
See,
I
I have I would even.
What would you do if I walked in the bathroom and you would be in your bathroom? You'd be like, "Whoa!"
I'd be like, no, I'd just be like, hey, nobody
So,
cared in my generation. I wouldn't even. It wouldn't even be something that even registered with me. To
right,
be
but
honest.
would you, for a quick minute, think, "Oh shit, did I go in the wrong place?"
Oh, I can see that. Yeah, but
Yeah.
that's just like,
So,
did I make the error? That's not on you. That's on the person. Did I screw up here? But even
so
then,
I wished I had a camera following my butt,
do it.
360.
That'd be good. That would be interesting, wouldn't it?
Because here's the follow up to that. So people are calling me out, saying I'm a liar, that I'm going to the men's room and women are following me in there, or women are like another girl was going into the women's room and I came out of the men's, and she stopped. She's like, "Oh shit, that's the women's room." And I was like, "No, no, no." So, but just this Saturday, I went to the Psychedelic First concert at the Pearl at the Palms. I was walking into the men's room, and one of the ushers, a female usher, standing there right there by the entry of the men's room, stopped me physically. Was like, "No, no, no, the women's room is on the other side of the hallway." And I was like, I was speechless. I was like, first of all, I said, "Thank you so much." And she looked at me bewildered, like, "What? Why are you thinking?" I was like, "I appreciate you saying that about me, but I'm doing, what I know is right. So I'm just going to use the men's room real quick." And she was like, "Okay," but it had happened to me every single
Why do they
time.
doubt you though? It's like again they're attacking your credibility. Like instead of just being charitable, which I called it was called it's not me, but everybody calls it the principle of charity. If you know about philosophy, principle of charity is you give the people the benefit of the doubt unless you have reason not to. And I've seen nothing from you so far. And even though it's been a few weeks, I look for dishonesty. I look for disingenuous. I look for people that are putting out misinformation or conflicting information or don't see some sincere. And I got to tell you, this is probably one of the reasons I reached out to you. You seem like one of the most sincere people out there on the circuit talking about these things.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, I mean, I try. Like, I'm just trying to set an example to show other trans people, whether it's millennials or Gen Zs, you can be like me or whatever. Like, I don't know if you say it like that, but I'm just showing you I can live a full, happy life. I cannot invade women's spaces. I cannot invade women's sports. People know me on my Twitter. They've seen my picture. I compete in motorcycle racing on the road now, not in the dirt. That I'm still in the men's division. Like, it says Jessica Gill, men's all-time, place fifth, place fourth, place third, whatever. I want to show people that you can still be trans and you don't have to be always involved on the women's side of thing. Like, you can just be who you are.
Be you.
You can be who you are.
That's Gen
Yeah.
X. That's how we were raised. Be you. Nobody cared whether somebody was gay, straight, bi, trans. It was, are you a good person? I'm ex-military, 6 years Navy, and I gotta tell you, like, on my ship, nobody gave a flying F if somebody was gay. It was during the Clinton administration. So if you remember the don't ask, don't tell policy.
The don't ask, don't tell, yeah.
Which was a stopgap measure. I wasn't thrilled with it, but I understood it. It was a halfway point between actually, full acceptance, which absolutely should be the case in the military. But it was a transitioning thing, so to speak. And so I get why they had it. But I got to tell you, somebody in the military, nobody cared. The military was like, look, do your job, get up for watch, stand your watch. That's all it mattered. And I don't know what happened to that. As a matter of fact, somebody did ask a question that kind of relates to this a little bit. They said, this is from Electric Glide, when do you think that the left shifted so far to the left? Causes. And I think that kind of relates to it. What changed where people started caring about this stuff in a negative way?
I would say, I want to say the Barack era, because like he turned the country around. And in my opinion, I saw the biggest change when they went with his mottos, and he was it, they said the other day, he was the first one to say that they're going to make it illegal for anybody in the school system not to accept transgender, athletes or transgender people in the bathrooms. That's what it was. Barack Obama said, if you don't accept trans people in the bathrooms of the gender they choose, then you're in trouble with the government. And ever since then, I was like, I don't want the government fighting for me. This is the other thing that I stand for hardcore, is free speech and whatnot, but I don't want the government telling the public, society, how they're supposed to feel about me, And that's what I'm trying to fight against, is the government shouldn't tell people how to feel about me. That's up to them to decide whether they think I'm a bad actor or in good faith or a bad person. That's fine. You don't have to like me. You don't have to agree with my views, but at least listen to me.
Yeah, you can't legislate that. You can't legislate people to get along. You can't legislate people to like each other. That's what we like, to be able to think that way. I am an advocate of First Amendment, and I'm going to get flack for this. I've already been canceled 16,000 times to Sunday. I've been on YouTube 10 years. I can't even tell you how many times I've been canceled. But I will tell you that I believe that even, except for fighting words, because we're not considered to be free speech, but hate speech in itself, I don't think should be illegal. I think society should stand up against it. I absolutely, when I have a Jewish culture, people are anti-Semitic, so that's the only thing I can relate to. If people are being anti-Semitic to me, they have a right to do it. I'm sorry, but they have a right to be pieces of shit and call me this or whatever. And even against any kind of nature, race, whatever, people have a right, unfortunately, to say stupid shit. But we also have a right to push back on that. And we also have a right to stand up for ourselves and to explain to people why these people are being shitty people.
Exactly. Yeah. I can see the liberal side of how they would perceive it, but I don't.
But trying to make legislation for people to get along never ends well. You can't prescribe these courses of action, because there's always going to be certain types of pushback and certain people that are going to basically take advantage of the system. I mean, certain things in Canada, it's almost criminal. I haven't got confirmation, but people, the Canadian side, tell me that there's a lot of things that have been made criminal about, using pronouns or not respecting.
Gendering is illegal there.
That's frightful. As an American, that's frightful.
Isn't it? Yes.
I don't want to be legislated what I can and cannot say as far as my opinions on something. Even if my opinion is shitty, I want to be able to express it. And other people should have that same right. Absolutely. You're familiar with Billboard Chris, right?
Yes, 100%.
Yeah.
Love that guy.
Yeah.
I've reached out to him and the other.
I did a long time ago, but he's way out of my class. I mean, he knows me on Twitter.
He's not out of your class. Don't say that. But
he's corresponded with me publicly. I messaged him some privately. I don't know if he ever got it, but. Yeah, no, he's the one. He's actually the one that, believe it or not, that kind of changed my position a little bit. Things I was kind of, I was gathering facts, which I do, and I had asked some questions, and the dude was nice enough to not just provide answers, but back them up with evidence, and not treat me like hostile, and I had the utmost respect for that.
that his whole avenue is what I would like to pursue too. It's just unfortunately I can't go around asking people, do you think trans people should be able to go to the women's restroom? You know, because they're gonna look at me and they're going, well, of course I do, because you're standing right in front of me. I'm not gonna get a genuine answer.
Yeah, that might be true too.
So I would love to do that sort of thing that causes debate, or you know, and even maybe a little bit of drama, you know, because that's what gets clicks.
Yeah,
Everybody,
look, nothing wrong with
you know,
look. There's nothing wrong with drama. There's nothing wrong with dumpster fires, but you have to pick and choose your episodes for that. When I have a flat earther on, you know it's not going to end well. Okay, I mean, me and one of my best friends, Rez Rhetoric, he is the definitive flat Earth debunker of all of YouTube.
oh, okay.
And yeah, things don't end well for flat earthers on my channel. We have had some horrifying experiences. I've had threats. I mean,
Wow.
people that remember my show back in the day on the NonSequitur show when we had some certain flat earthers on, one of them had roid rage, and this guy was like threatening to kill me and stuff. And I'm like, what the hell just happened here? And then I had an episode where I had two people. I had, J.F. Garify, if you're familiar with him.
A little bit.
He's a race realist, nationalist, and he has some other issues going on with his ex-wife or something. But anyways, I had him on once, and I had a friend of mine who was a black activist, BLM kind of stuff, and it was going fine back and forth, and they had different positions, and you know we're having a good discussion, the middle ground. But then at the very end, both of them were like, "Yeah, you know what? We do both agree we should have an ethno state." And I'm like, "Okay, this just took a turn," because you had J.F. Garifay and you had a Black Panther kind of person, both agreeing, "Yeah, so we should separate blacks and whites." Because I'm like, "No, I don't. I cannot get on board with this." So things can go south real quick and have dumpster fires, and they are entertaining. That was a very entertaining episode. But
Yeah,
you got to pick and choose. You got to pick and choose what you want to be a dumpster fire. This is not going to be a dumpster fire. I'm not going to ever allow somebody to come on when I have a guest like you to vilify you. I mean, even though you would absolutely formidable, and I'm sure you would be okay with it. I couldn't do that in good conscience.
Oh yeah, no, yeah, and I like I said, that's my rules is I don't block people and I don't back down from a debate, you know. And again, with the way the Jubilee went, it was it was horrible, but what I like I said, I wanted to say more, but I felt like Blaire handled it. Sarah had a few good points. Andrew chimed in on what he could, and before Blaire started yelling, or Blossom started yelling at him, sorry. But yeah, I didn't want to echo it, and I look back and yeah, I can watch it again and say, oh, I should have spoken up here. I did say something to Blossom that kind of she breezed right past it, because I think maybe it's the physical factor. I'm 5'10", in heels, probably 6'2", and Blossom doesn't scare me physically as far as her size. She's bigger than me, but I said to her at one point, and I heard it on the podcast, you can hear it on the live or on the actual version, where she was going off about this and that and pulling out the race card, and she goes, well, blah, blah, blah. And I said, well, why do you always have to put black in front of it? And she just looked at me and kind of carried on with what she just kept going on her avenue the path she was going down, and just disregarded what I said.
Because that's her identity. She makes everything about that. That's what a lot of people noticed. Race, I'm sorry, should have never been interjected or a factor into that discussion. It was absolutely 100% irrelevant. I'm not saying she doesn't have her own issues being a black trans person. I get that. But that was not the time nor the place for that.
Yeah, she probably does have a lot of I was trying to say obstacles to get over being that she's black trans, and but I don't think it should be looked at as a double negative. And I didn't get to say this on the podcast, and I wanted to, was that not one person in that room saw her as a black person, whether she's trans or not.
I believe that.
We were so laser focused on the issues at hand, which is trans in the military, trans in the bathroom. I wanted trans in sports, and that didn't come up. That was my thing. I was driving to LA like, this is going to be awesome. I'm going to talk about everybody's like, Jessica, you're the best. You know this stuff left and right. Like you got this. Like there's no way you're going to fail at this, because you know this stuff inside and out when it comes to sports. That's my thing. Mm-hmm. And so for them not to bring up the sports thing, and then for Blossom to just pound on the race card over and over again, and the oppression thing. And I'm like, you don't have to be oppressed. That's what I'm trying to tell a lot of these younger generations. You don't have to be trans and oppressed. You don't have to be trans and a victim. You can just be trans.
Mm-hmm.
You can live your life however you want. If you want to be non-binary, be non-binary. I don't care. But don't force your way onto other people. Whether you're forcing your way into my trans community or you're forcing your way into the women's group, don't do it. Stay in your lane and just be you. Like, there's nothing wrong with being you.
Yeah, that came from intersectionality, actually. That came from, the principle. But the early days were called multiculturalism, which, had pros and cons like anything else. But that, critical race theory, critical gender theory, and all these other types of more modern systems seem to have this persecution versus privilege position. That in order to get ahead, you have to make yourself to be the persecuted one. And going against the privilege. And it was kind of funny because, as Blaire astutely pointed out, in this scenario, Blossom was the privileged one.
She was. And, I think, thankfully, I hate saying this. This sounds so, it's not even racist. It's just stereotypical. But I thank God every day I'm trans, because otherwise I would be a straight white male or maybe a gay white male, but I would have no voice in the fight. I would have no dog in the fight, so they say.
It would be as personal to you as it is.
Well, and people will listen to a trans person a little more than just a regular straight average white dude. Remember, he was labeled the enemy about a year ago?
Yeah. No, look, I'm cisgender, heterosexual. I get shit for saying I'm cisgender now.
Don't use that word. Don't use that word.
But to me, I have no issue with it. I don't take it pejoratively. I know that some people use it that way, and I get it. But at the same token, I'm like you. I'm me. I'm just me. Go for what my positions are. Attack me on my arguments. I have a paper out there that I wrote that I'm still waiting for somebody to sale. Attack the argument, But they come after me like, oh, well, you're just an old white guy. What do you have to say? Screw you. No offense, but screw you. Everybody has a voice. I don't care what your gender is. I don't care what your nationality is. I don't care what your skin color is. If you have a voice, articulate it intelligently, know the facts, have an informed opinion, because that's, by the way, the motto of NonSequitur is all informed opinions are sacred, and then discuss it with people like grown adults. And I don't see that's what happened. And to kind of bring it back to the Blossom and Alexander, because you had mentioned non-binary, what the hell was that? I mean, why was Alexander there? Look.
What is non-binary? Yeah.
That should have been a completely different episode. Alexander, and I'm sorry, like I said, he's never going to know anything about my channel. But Alexander had no business being there whatsoever. Added absolutely zero to that discussion. Nothing.
Yeah. All he did was talk about his feelings and, how his journey.
I exist. Yeah, you exist. Okay, and?
Yeah, his journey and how valid he is and blah, blah, blah. And it's like, and again, this relates back to, yes, I have my moment with him and I'm super disgusted with him. But when Blaire answers him back and says, you're right here, we got you. Right. And again, not to harp on this subject, but I feel bad that I didn't shine in that podcast. But Blaire called him out and said what she needed to say, and he heard it. There was no need for me to come in with another, yeah, she's right, comment, or
no, you really don't. You would just been like kind of maybe writing her coattails, people would have said, or being agreeable. But again, I think the
silent party, that's me. Apparently, I'm the silent.
But the trans issue, the issue with the sports and trans issue was your thing, and that's what they didn't even get to.
They didn't get to it, and I was like, ooh, sports, and it never happened. I will say one funny snippet that nobody knows about. Like, there came a time when, after, like I said, they did 4 prompts that they knew would bring the conservatives forward first, and then they did 4 prompts that they knew would bring liberals forward first. And out of like the 3rd liberal comment, we all just stood there at the line where we wait for them to say step forward, and nobody moved on one of them. And Blaire was like, these are my people. And she's like, my team. She puts her arms out around us and she was like, this is awesome. Like, because we had 4 people that just 100% agreed with each other, and we were strong in our beliefs, and they didn't come forward with any respectable arguments to say, hey, you're wrong on this. Or, Sarah had some good points about the military thing, and Blaire, she took over, and that's fine. I was fine with her taking over, and I was there to support her or have her back in case Blossom wanted to get crazy.
Oh yeah,
Um,
well she did have bodyguards there, so
yeah,
her
you know, which
bodyguard. Why did she even mention that? Why did she even mention she had bodyguards? That's so
she
intimidating.
she had a friend outside. I was outside after, and I think before I couldn't see what car she was in. I was parked like by the front door, so I was just waiting by my car. But she had some guys out there in a car waiting around. I could hear them talking to her. So yeah, for her to do that's a pretty shitty
It
thing.
was
Like that's
shitty. It
pretty
was absolutely
shallow,
shitty. And what was the
you know.
like? What was the point? But to try to intimidate Blaire, and what are those people going to do? You think they're going to allow? You think they're going to have? Oh, come on in. Let's go beat up on Blaire. Go ahead. It's
Well,
just
and plus,
asinine.
I probably shouldn't say this about, because they didn't say anything, but there's two, possibly three with Sarah, but there's three heavily, I don't want to say armed, but 2A supporters in that building, three of them, all on the same team. I don't think anything was going down
Right. I
uh,
seriously doubt it as well. Yeah.
with
And,
me
I
and
do find
Blair.
that conservatives do tend more to the 2A.
Yes, 100%. There's a few liberals possibly, but yeah, and I don't mean to lean on that shield like it's gonna save my life every single day, but um,
But
you
absolutely
know, I
protect yourself. If it's like I said, if as long as it's done legally and safe, that's I even get pushback for that. As somebody who has a had a concealed weapons permit at one time, somebody who had to go
um,
to firearms training and learn how
yeah,
to use the weapon, and in being prior military, you fire guns and you learn how to do that. Um, people are like, "Oh, we should have unfettered access to guns." I'm like, "No, no, we should not. That's not 2A. You have every right to protect yourself legally." But
yeah,
I absolutely believe in you have to go through a firearm safety course. You have to
yeah,
demonstrate proficiency. That's not violating a 2A right to have a weapon. It just means that just like driving a car, you have to show that you know what you're doing.
exactly. Yeah, no, I have two state carry permit that allows me into multiple states because I live in Nevada, and if you apply for the Utah one, it gives you a lot more coverage across America. You still wouldn't never get into the liberal cities like New York or LA
Yeah,
with
yeah, exactly.
legally,
LA,
but
you can't get a concealed weapons permit in California very easily. It's extremely,
or New
extremely
York,
difficult.
yeah, But here is open carry, and I don't always, but sometimes.
It's open carry. I mean, I know where you're at, but I mean, you
Yeah,
have it on your Twitter too. But I just don't like saying where people are at. But I mean, your area is open carry.
yeah, 100%.
Really? I didn't know that.
I find I get a lot more smiles, and a lot more guys tend to smile at me in the grocery store, or hate to say I shop at Target, but Target, Walmart, whatever. Um, I don't like to think that the gun is what brings them to attention and be like, oh hi, like that's what's making them friendly. But I notice it with and without, like.
Well, they are probably thinking, "Hey, this is a badass bitch. I ain't gonna piss her off." That's where they're probably
Yeah,
thinking.
some
That's
think it's,
okay.
I have a custom painted gun. It's Miami themed. It's awesome, But yeah, so some people are like, oh, that is so cool looking. One lady at a store the other night thought it was fake. She was like, "That's a fake gun, right?" And I was like, "No,
No.
this is real as it gets." But just because it's so over the top, yeah, it looked fake to her. So the gun education level in our country is down here. It needs to
really
be up
is.
here.
It really is.
Or what the proper usage of is, and how to identify and recognize when I should use this, when I shouldn't. That's a big part of.
Massive. There was just an incident where a YouTuber was doing one of his silly little pranks, and
Oh yeah,
he was costumed in the mall, and he was shot. Now there was no I think he was acquitted and stuff like that. But I reviewed that, and I got to tell you, to me, that was not a justifiable shooting. It was justified of the fact that this annoying YouTuber was annoying as shit, and we all want people to get their comeuppance and karma. But unfortunately, there was no threat at the time, and to use lethal force, you need to make sure that in your mind's eye that you can justify that your life is in danger. And I don't think that could have possibly be the case. I think he was maybe convicted for discharging a weapon in a closed space. But hey, I'd rather have that than attempted murder, right? But yeah, I think a lot of people who own firearms are not trained properly of when you can actually use it. I never had to draw my weapon. No matter where I was at, I never had to draw it. I mean, because I was trained, if you draw your weapon, be prepared to use it.
Yeah, I'm in the same boat. Like that shooting that you're speaking of, that was totally uncalled for. Yes, that guy was being a total prick, and needed to be pushed away in whatever means
knocked
necessary.
out, go for it, right? But yeah,
even if you had to brandish just for a moment, like, look, dude, this is gonna happen if you don't leave me alone.
I'm okay with that.
And at least make that be known. I would have tried that. Like, I am deathly afraid. Like, I know how to use my weapons, but I don't ever want to. I've tased a person once in my life because of my job. My job is a pretty hazardous job for a person like me. But because I think, like, to your point, what you said earlier, how people see me, I come off as friendly, bubbly. I've had people that were my customers that say, "Oh, I just saw you on YouTube. That was crazy. You did a bait." But yeah, I've had to tase somebody, and I am deathly afraid of the day that may come where I have to pull out my gun and use it. I don't want that to happen. Like, I know the repercussions. If I shoot someone, I am going to spend the rest of my life in court or in jail. One of the two. It's either court or jail, and I'm broke.
You still have that on your mind.
I'm poor. I will be homeless for whatever the outcome is.
I think that's going to be changing. I think you're going to be very successful, to be honest with you. I think that the route you're going and the attention you're getting is going to literally change your life. But I work loss prevention, and so I carry mace. I do carry some other things. I'm not going to say what, but they're perfectly legal in my state. I know the law. But yeah, there'll be a time. I've only had to break out my pepper spray. I remember once, but I'm pretty sure there was twice. But I do remember one vividly. But the other things that I have, I never want to have to bring it out because at that point, one, I'm going to get fired. I'm sure. And two, that's only if the point where my life or somebody that I know's life is going to be in jeopardy, and I have to be prepared at that point to use it because so you're just brandishing, right? Which is a whole separate charge. But if somebody is going to try to kill me, if they have a weapon and they're running after me with a knife, I will do what I have to do to protect myself and then be judged afterwards. But I can guarantee almost every case, and it's on video, that's going to be self-defense. They're not going to press charges.
Mm-hmm.
Do you have a couple questions? I know I said we were going to go for an hour and a half max, so I don't want to monopolize your time. It's about
you're fine. I talk too much, so
no, that's what you're here for. Nobody wants to hear
me. But I get off on some tangent.
And nobody gives a flying fuck about me. They're always about the guests. Trust me.
Okay.
But one of my moderators, who's been with me a very long time, she's asked, "What are rights? Why do we have? We don't have rights?" She says we have privileges that the government can take away at any moment. But that's not exactly true. In America, there's rights and there's liberties. The First and Second right are actually liberties. They are not rights. The First Amendment and Second Amendment are mislabeled. They're misnomers. They're not actually rights. They're called liberties. A right is something you have to prevent persecution against, such as civil rights. For example, if firing somebody because of their skin color is a right to work that you cannot get fired for that. That's a right. But a privilege would be something like a driver's license. That's a privilege. But the First Amendment and Second Amendments are called liberties. And I think a lot of people confuse the two because they're not really well distinguished in civics class, and they're called it's a Bill of Rights, and it's not. So what would you like to add to that?
What was your question initially?
She says basically, what are rights? Like, maybe specifically, like when you hear people asking for trans rights or gay rights.
Oh, the stupid trans rights or human rights.
I don't know what they're meaning some of the times because yes, gay rights. Oh, absolutely. That one time they needed a push for that, but now it seems like they have everything that they're asking for.
And as well they should. The one that shuts them up on that is the quick answer when they're screaming trans rights or human rights. Just you ask them. Okay, what rights does Jessica not have as a trans person? Name one.
I've asked them. No, I've literally done that. You know what the response is? Block.
They scream.
And I'm like, wait a minute. You're calling me names and then you block me. But I'm seriously asking them. I'm not trying to be hyperbolic. This is not sophistry. This is not negative rhetoric. It is if you think that somebody who's trans or gay has less of a right than somebody else. I'd like to know what that right is because I understand the Civil Rights Act of 1964. I've taken HR courses. I understand the rights that people have in the workplace. It's integral in my job.
Yeah,
and so
exactly.
I want to know what because
there are no rights. The easy answer is there are no rights that I don't have that Joe Blow down the street doesn't have. Same as me. Now, if I'm a criminal or I break the law, yeah, they take away some of those rights, those privileges that you talked about. As a privilege to be taken away. So yeah, that argument holds no weight. It's stupid. I get tired of it. Their only answer is to either call you a bigot or a transphobe. And
do they make it more difficult for you to get your views out when they're basically trying to argue that you're not having the same rights as everybody else? Now, again, I'm not going to say that people aren't treated differently. Unfortunately, there's
prejudice.
Prejudice.
There
There's
is
shitty people in
prejudice
America.
out there. Unfortunately, the prejudice does exist. I deal with it every day.
Absolutely.
People on the phone with me, I'm calling in, or people call me from an insurance company, like, Jessica, and I'm like, yeah, this is Jessica, and they're like, this is Jessica? Yes, this is Jessica. I'm trans. What do you need?
The fact that you have to explain that.
It sucks, but hey,
it does.
I'm not gonna go create a TikTok video that says somebody misgendered me on the phone because my voice.
For 3 days.
Yeah, and wallow in my car. What am I gonna do? Like, they cease to exist just because they don't like my voice? I don't care.
That's so mind-blowing.
Yeah,
it's so unfortunate as well too, because I mean, again, I can't imagine what it's like to be trans. But I absolutely believe gender dysphoria is a real thing. It is a real psychological condition. And when I see people that, whether they agree with it or disagree with it or whatever, if you treat somebody poorly because they have this condition, you're a shitty person. I don't know what else to tell them. And so I just want to have people be able to recognize and empathy for people, and whether you agree with them or disagree with them on their positions, or ideological positions, or political positions, treat them like fucking people, like you would anyone else. I don't know why I get vilified for that position. I shit you not.
Oh, really?
Yes, I get vilified for that very position. As I grew up, treat people with respect, empathize with them, but because is I think that a lot of today's generation are becoming more psychopathic, have psychopathy, and more becoming more sociopathic in nature, where they don't know what it's like to empathize with somebody else because it's all about them. It's all about their sense of entitlement, their ego, their sense of narcissistic supply, and they don't know what it's like to say, what would it be like if I was this other person? They don't have that ability anymore. I don't know if it's something biologically being weeded out in today's generation, or it's just because of external factors, but I see it far less than I ever have before, and it's a shame.
Okay, yeah, just to touch on that, exactly what you said, that struck a chord in my brain. Yeah, so they are unable to put themselves in someone else's shoes, right? So that's another argument that I use when these people bring up, trans women or women, they should be competing in women's sports, and I say, why? And they just, well, because they're women, and it's like, well, no, they're not. Put yourself in the woman's shoes who's been training for 13 years to run this marathon, and then some dude walks in and says, yeah, I'm a girl, and whoops her ass, by 5 minutes down 26.2 miles, and it's all out the window. So how does she feel? And they're like, what about the feelings of the trans person? Well, so what? Yeah, I have feelings, but I don't know. This is where I catch a lot of heat from my own community too. Like you said earlier, you can't imagine what it's like to live with this. Like, there are days when it's hard. Like, I sometimes have to call my mom and say, Mom, I don't feel good today. Like, this sucks. I'm not never going to end it, but there's days it does cross your mind.
I absolutely believe that. But this is why I consider someone like yourself a good agent.
We have a high rate of that, I'm not going to say the word, but we have a high rate of that. And there are days it crosses my mind. I'm not going to lie. It's tough. Like, I sit back, I look at myself, I'm like, is this worth it? Did I make the right decision? Like, so what I'm getting at is that we made a choice. I made a choice to be trans or not. Like, I get heat from my own community when I say that that's a choice, when they're like, you don't have a choice when you're trans. It's just the way you were born. This is the way you're going to be. And if you don't, you're going to, do the other thing. And I'm here to tell you.
It's so manipulative on them, though.
It is a little bit. And I don't like that. I hate being forced into one or the other. Like, I didn't have a choice. I made the choice to put the drugs in me. I take that shot every week, and that's a decision I make. I can choose not to. So living with your choices, whether you choose to follow your path of being trans, like, that's up to you. But don't act like we didn't have a choice. Everybody has a choice. Everything is a choice. You always have a choice to make. And
isn't that what an ally does, is support people who make what, obviously there's some rational choices and there's irrational choices.
Exactly.
As an adult, informed adult, You by all means can make any rational decision you want when it comes to that. That's what I believe is freedom. That I believe is America. Now, I mean, sure, there's always extremes, okay, and anybody can throw in extremes on any issue. But just in a general discussion and for generalities, you have every right to live your life the way you want.
Exactly.
Who the hell is anybody to tell you otherwise, liberal or conservative?
Exactly.
And I don't know why we get so much pushback for that. I really don't. It's disturbing because it alienates the allies. It alienates the people that people should have on the side of the transgender community. And yet, if you don't have and I mean lockstep ideology with them, it's not good enough for them.
No, it never will be. So that's the barriers. I'm trying to bring down those barriers. Like, let everybody know it's okay to be trans and be misgendered. It's okay to be trans and I hate bringing up the passing thing, but it's okay to look like me and be trans and you can still live a happy life, and you don't have to force your way onto people's, bathrooms and you don't have to make society call you she, her, they, them. You don't have to. You can still be happy.
Yeah, the whole neo-pronoun thing
happening. You can still be happy. Are there any more questions about?
I got one left. And then we'll kind of wrap it up on the pronoun thing, because I have done numerous episodes on pronouns, and pronouns are generally what's called anaphoric. They refer back to some kind of reference, and so it's a communicative thing in linguistics of what we're talking about, where we don't have to use a person's name all the time, right? Because if we just yes, you're Jessica, but if we said Jessica went to the store and Jessica did this and Jessica, it's unwieldy, right? So they use a pronoun to kind of refer back anaphorically to the reference, and so when you have people that are creating all these weird new pronouns and being want to call this and that, it's mentally taxing for people. There's processing going on, and you're like, "Did this person? Is it they? Is it them? Is it me? We? What is it? What is it for them?" It's unwieldy, unfortunately, and it cannot be prescribed in society. No society in the world has ever prescribed things like that. Language comes about organically.
Yeah,
it makes it very difficult. Yeah,
I'll walk away from those people.
Because do you agree that it's all about them? They're like, oh, it's a power thing to them. It's and this is again, I get vilified, but to a lot of them, it is a power thing. It's like, call me this, or okay, no, I'm not going to call you Z, whatever. It's just no.
Yeah, I don't even entertain it. So I just will walk away or leave the conversation. I don't run in the circles of the LGBT community, so I'm not around a lot of they thems. I have one that works at my bank. I did that person a common courtesy. They go by the name of, well, I won't say it, but it's just a neutral. It's a piece of a chessboard. I'll say that. And I referred to him as they the other day, but I know that it made his day. It's a guy, I'm pretty sure. I know it made his day. And
that's fine. Nothing wrong with that.
I went to the bank the next day, and one of the tellers was like, "You are so kind to do that for them or they or whatever their pronoun was."
But it's confusing because you never know what people want.
I had to think about it.
Exactly.
I'm trans, and I had to think about it.
That's mental processing, right? That's because it is mentally taxing. You cannot remember it for everybody in your life.
Yeah, I had to say the sentence twice in my head before I let it out of my mouth. Okay, they have worked here longer than them. No, they did work here long. It was like, oh my God, this is so stupid.
Grammatically, yes, you can have they, them, singular. That is true.
I knew it would make that person's day better, and it did. And, I think to me, it means less coming from a trans person because they assumed that I was already in that community. I'm in that circle of pronoun people, and I'm not. But they don't need to know that, and it's fine. And here I am still addressing them properly as a they, just because I didn't want to give away their real name. But either way, I'm not going to play the pronoun game. But you said there was another question. I'm sorry. I know we got to.
No, I think about. I'm surprised somebody called in. I literally have had the phone number up there. So either A, everybody agrees with you, or B, they're scared of you to challenge you. One or the other, maybe. But yeah,
probably the echo chamber thing, like.
This is I don't have echo chambers. I assure you, people will tell you that.
I welcome the debate. Like I said, I get a lot of hatred online. The threats, the violence. That's why I don't block people. Like I said, and also everybody knows where I live. I live in Las Vegas. I work in the #1 busiest city in the world in the hospitality industry. I'm not hard to find. I've actually had 2 customers hit me up from my job. Like I said that. They were like, "Oh my God, you were my driver 2 weeks
awesome.
ago, and I just saw you on TV." I was like, "Okay,
That's so
thanks."
awesome. No, and I'll leave you with this, and we'll wrap it up. Is that I make great predictions. I got to tell you, the people that I predicted will make it big have made it big. I mean, there's people that started the same time I did from my channel, co-host on my channel, that have 250,000 subs or more.
Wow.
I mean, there's been numerous people around my channel that have hundreds of thousands of subs. I never made it big because the legalities that would happen, and I had to fight to get my channel back, and there's a whole
Yeah, of course.
slew of that. So I mean, I got screwed. But you know what? I do it for fun anyways. People know who I am, and that's all that matters. I'm not looking for the notoriety or the publicity or anything like that, because I do what I do because I enjoy it, and I love these types of discussions, and that's what I'm going to have more of. And I'm going to tell you, I got to have you back. I got to have you back at touch base and have maybe more people call in, because I want to see you engage with them. I love that, because I got to tell you, I think you're going to be very successful in this.
I would love that. Yeah, a live call-in is fine with me. I'm not like, I will never dodge a question. There is no, I mean, there's personal questions. You don't need to ask me
Right.
the number one that everybody asks. Every trans person, if they could, they would ask, what's the surgery? So
I don't like those kind of questions either.
Yeah, I don't dodge that, or I don't, dodge anything. So yeah, I would love people to call in, whether you're on my side or not. Like, I want to hear from you. Maybe I'll change a mind. That would be nice, just to know that I can reach people and, make a positive impact. Just like the guy at the bank, I made his day. What's wrong with telling somebody, hey, you're beautiful, or hey, you look good.
Yeah, exactly. Nothing wrong with that. And somebody said they got an error message in the call, so maybe like I said, we'll try it again. But my friend Autistic Shell, what she leaves us with, I want you to know that, as you know, I start off unsure of your views. I mean, I have family members dating a female trans, so when we talked, I understood what we actually have a lot. I understood we actually have a lot of similar views, and that to me is just what my channel is about. Finding common ground, finding middle ground, discussing things you don't agree with, and still leave friendly. This is one of my moderators. My moderators don't have to agree with me. In fact, it used to be a game. Hey, let's go after Steve on something we disagree with as a moderator, right? They love to do that. Hey, Steve, you're wrong on this. Let me tell you why. Okay. And so that's my little niche. And I got to tell you, I loved having you on, Jessica. I expect big things. I'm going to be keeping in touch with you regularly on this particular topic, because I want to be part of this. I do. I've been involved in this topic for a very long time. I backed away for a while, but I think it's coming up now again. And one of my friends just showed up who is in the gay community, and he advocates for this stuff as well. He agrees with me 100% on a lot of things. And so I think that a lot of people, hi Gwen out there, a lot of people are going to be supporting you. And the 30,000, 40,000, whatever comments on that video that I read, I don't think I saw a single one that didn't support you and that did not point out that Blossom and Alexander was just absurd in that. And I, by the way, if anybody wants to reach out to me and wants to talk about my position on that, I'm happy to do so. Because I mean, Blossom and Alexander will never know who I am, but I will tell you, they know who they are. People know who they are.
Watch out. My name will cross their path. So now that you've had me on your show, they might find out about you. Come looking for you.
Bring it. They wouldn't know what they're in for. But anyways, Jessica, thank you very much for joining me. Thank you, my viewers. I am going to put this on YouTube on the Non-Sequitur Show channel after it renders. It is on 1080p, so it takes like 3 days now. But I will put it on my main YouTube channel, because I think this is going to be something that's viewed and watched. And I look forward to your comments. If you want to support this channel and you want to support these types of discussions, leave a comment, because I try to respond to all of them. I base other content on my comments. So commenting is like the best you can do on these videos by far.
And Jessica, I see the live chat. Yeah, that's awesome.
I'm going to put a little ending here. Stick around for like 5 seconds just after the call, and we'll wrap it up. Sound good? All right. Thank you guys for watching. I appreciate it, and we'll see you next time on the Non-Sequitur Show. Good night.
Thank you, everybody.